Today, there was reports from sources close to the inner workings of the Cincinnati Bengals saying, hey, the Bengals are still not even close with Trey Hendrickson, with Jamarr Chase, with Higgins. Apparently, very pessimistic vibes in the air. Apparently, all the players kind of leveraging, going out there saying, hey, but players come out in the public, putting the pressure on the front office, and then they're asking for top dollar. And for me, the very first thing that comes to mind is, what a load of BS, or not a surprise. I don't know. I don't even want to call it BS as much as not a surprise. I would call it BS because I feel like that's, they're trying, how this will work. The front office, they try to leak it, try to bring the leverage back in their favor, make it look like they're trying to do their best. Meanwhile, the players aren't. And the reason I instantly go down that route is because it is not a surprise at all that the Bengals are not signing these players right now. You look at the stars in the past: Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow, AJ Green, Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap, Andy Dalton, cornerstones of this franchise over the last 15 years. The most important of the most important. None of them got their contract extensions before August. Heck, AJ Green waited until September 11th. They have never made it a priority to sign their superstar players, to make their superstar players feel important. Like, hey, you're my number one priority. Forget about, right now, and I can see why the players can be a little upset and a little disheartened, but it's like right now the Bengals' philosophy is, we're going to look at the draft. We're going to see how the draft goes. We're going to see how free agency goes. Then we'll come back to you guys. Which I understand from an organization standpoint. It's like, you already have these guys under contract, so it's like you'll worry about their contracts afterwards. Make sure you can bring these other players in. But there's always that happy medium of doing that, and also understanding like, hey, you got to make sure your best players feel like they're superstars, feel like they're important, they're valued on your organization. Putting them last and say, we'll sign you at the end, obviously is going to leave, a bit of a bitter taste in their mouth. Like, oh, you're going to worry about after, whatever this gets done or that gets done or this gets done. And for me, I guess, hearing this news, not at all surprising. It's just a little bit demoralizing, especially when we just heard, I want to go to clip this and find it to make sure I'm completely accurate in this, because we were watching it where Duke Tobin did that press conference at the Combine and said, hey, it's important that we get these guys signed. We get these guys signed and taken care of as soon as possible. And for me, the first thing I was like, when was that? When's that ever happened? Because historically that hasn't been the Bengals' way, but I was hoping, hey, times are changing, especially in the NFL. Teams are evolving. Are the Bengals evolving with them? Or are they kind of staying in their old ways? And we hope and we pray and we stand up for this organization and this team and say, hey, they are going to evolve. They are going to change. We have seen them, change the naming rights, bring in the bubble, do things to improve this team. But are we seeing even more steps taken to make this a favorable place for other players to play? Because then that's a big deal in a lot of ways. Because, you want your players to feel valued. You want your players to feel taken care of. Not just your ones you're drafting, or not just your superstars, but when you go into free agency, if a free agent, you got a chance to lock down a solid free agent that might be 27, rare and hard to come by, a top free agent, in their 20s. If you got a chance to lock them down and their choices are you, the Bills and the Chiefs, and you the Chiefs and the Eagles, and you see the Eagles just ink Saquon at his age, at how long he's been in the league, to record-setting money with that team around him, to see that they care about their star players that much, the cornerstones that much, and they take care of it that early. Or you could sit here on the fence, kind of dragging it out until the season starts, not sure what's going to happen. Injury could happen, derail your career. The organization could trade. You don't know. Anything could happen in a flip of a dime because they hold out on you. Of course, they're going to think, it's important to go somewhere I feel valued and important, right? And that's important. That's the one thing with the Bengals. I can get it. I can get it completely. Where you don't want to sign guys too early. Like I can see the T. Higgins thing. I don't want to sign T. Higgins too early because, hey, if he comes in a training camp and pulls a hamstring, all of a sudden we don't know what's going to happen. The injury concerns. Jamarr Chase, on the other hand, I'm not worried about that. Knock on wood. I'm sorry to jinx it. But he doesn't have the same injury history. Sure, he might get hurt this season, but I don't worry about it being, I don't like saying it because I feel like I'm jinxing it. But you don't worry as much. Like if you were to put him on a scale of 1 to 10 of where's he at on chances of getting hurt this year and completely derailing his career, you know, he's closer to the 1 or 2 range. T. Higgins might be closer to the 5 to 7 range. And that's why it's like, okay, I can get that. But they, you know, that's the concept of the Bengals no matter what. Trey Hendrickson working his tail. Trey Hendrickson can plan on him steal the contract really last season. Max Crosby just inked that contract, was about $35 million a year. It was 3 years, a little over $100 million. Inked some good money for being an elite pass rusher. Now, of course, a little bit younger than Trey, but you'd think, you know, the going rate's been higher than what Trey Hendrickson even signed for, and now he's getting older. Of course, he's going to go for a little bit less, but you're getting some good deals out of these guys, which is where it kind of surprised me. It's like, of course, they're asking for top dollar. And if they're asking for top dollar, let's say Jamarr is asking for top dollar. Thankfully, the wide receiver pool isn't the same as last year. But when you wait for it, when these guys want top dollar, and then you're in an organization that waits until August or September, it's like the market's been set. You let Max Crosby get that contract, the market's been set. You wait until before, or you go in there before Max Crosby signs that contract. You know, there's a little bit more leverage on your side of things. Now, Trey Hendrickson can go on and say, well, let's compare this. He's this old. He does this compared to me. I want this amount. Just like Jamarr Chase last season. If you ink Jamarr Chase before Justin Jefferson signs, he wanted to wait, I guess. Chase wanted to wait until after Justin Jefferson. But if you say, hey, Justin Jefferson's got $35 million, and Jamarr Chase says, I just want more than him, and you have the opportunity right then and there to say, okay, we'll give you 36. We'll give you 35.5. Now, that whole season doesn't pass. You got Jamarr under contract. And instead now, you know, those reports he's turning down 37, 38, and he wants 40. T. Higgins, you know, you see some intermediate wide receiver sign, he can leverage that. Trey Hendrickson can leverage that. If Joe Burrow, prime example, there was signing quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. If you sign him right away, before any other quarterback, he sets the market. You make him the highest paid quarterback, and then 2 months later, somebody else becomes the highest paid quarterback. And 2 months after that, somebody else becomes the highest paid quarterback. Because that's just how it works with the quarterback position. But waiting ultimately hurts the team. It ultimately hurts the team morale. It's just one of the things I wish you would see the Bengals change up a little bit. Like I said, I get the injury concern. I get the concern about the guaranteed money, and I get that, you know, you're worried about this cap space, but there's a time and a place. If I was signing a 28-year-old guard, if I was signing, you know, Cordell Volson, maybe that's not a good comparison, but trying to think of something that would correlate. Maybe Von Bell. A couple years ago, it's like if you got a guy like Von Bell under contract for a year, and it's like he's a good player, he's an all right player, he's getting older, but he's not a cornerstone. Where it's like, okay, I can see why you want to wait, make sure there's cap space for these guys, but no, these guys that are the most essential, most important players on your football team, they got to get done early. You have to be willing to take that chance and say, well, if they get injured, they get injured. It's more important that I have them on this football team, as opposed to, like, again, well, you know, you say, well, Von Bell gets injured. It's like, could we go and find somebody else and move on? I don't know, maybe. Nothing against Von Bell, just, you know, the importance of the player on the team isn't very, very important to be considered, and you have that risk reward and that balance you have to have. And the Bengals don't seem to have that balance when it comes to re-signing these players and prioritizing the ones that need prioritized. And I hope, I mean, we still got time, but for me, I'm looking and I'm saying I'd be surprised, specifically Chase. I would be shocked if Chase signed before August. I hope he does, but I'd be shocked. Just based, again, on the way the Bengals do business, not the players. It's easy to blame the players, but historically, we've seen the way this is how business is done. Nonetheless, as always, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.